Hey there, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well, and sorry that I'm green for this video here. I am about to go film a video for my main channel, a big video essay on Star Trek of all things, shocker of shocks, because I have a few dark videos coming on my main channel, and I wanted to do at least one that was happy and joyful, because I think we need to hold on to that just as much as we talk about all the shitty and horrible and scary things that are coming our way as trans people. So I was going to be doing that today, but unfortunately there's something that has happened today that I feel like I need to respond to ASAP, hence why you're getting me in the bathroom greening myself up while I talk about something very, very serious. So hopefully the juxtaposition at least provides some level of visual intrigue and fun to what's ultimately going to be a very shitty video. But ultimately what we need to talk about is the recently elected U.S. Congresswoman Sarah McBride, the first ever transgender woman to be elected to Congress. Her treatment by her fellow colleagues, especially Republican colleagues like Mike Johnson, as well as others, and her response today to said treatment, because I think it's illuminating in a lot of different ways. For those of you who haven't been following it, essentially, since McBride got elected and is about to come into Congress, there's been a push by Republicans that are very turfy, who are demanding that she be banned from bathrooms. It's just an echo of all the transgender bathroom bans that we've seen targeting trans people, where it said, we don't want biological men in the bathroom, just very transphobic rhetoric. Except for this time, it's so much more transparent how like overtly transphobic it is, because it's literally targeting one person. Like, this law that they're trying to push this bathroom ban in Congress is literally to target one single trans woman and someone who's quite literally their colleague. And you get this like bullshit establishment sort of stuff from Mike Johnson, who sort of says in response to this, like, oh, we'll respect all of our fellow colleagues, we'll respect them, while he's also calling McBride a man and insulting her and humiliating her by having this even allowing this discourse on whether or not she is allowed to use the women's bathroom or not. And it's just absolutely humiliating and gross and disgusting. And something I say all those things, but it's not like I don't expect this from Republicans. It's frankly just par for the course and not terribly shocking. And is just indicative of why it's very frightening that Republicans have gained control of many of the levers of power at the moment. That being said, though, what was, I don't even want to say surprising, but slightly more surprising, was McBride's response to this today, because Mike Johnson just said he will pass the law that will ban her from the bathroom, and McBride has stated that she will abide by this law that says that she is a man and should use the men's bathroom. She did so by putting out a statement that says a few different things. One, that she wants to focus on the real issues that affect her constituency, which I'll talk about in a minute, from Delaware, where she is from. And then also says that she looks forward to working with people on both sides of the aisle. Oh boy. So again, I say that this is not surprising and surprising in the same vein, because frankly, I get to a level of degree that saying, like, this is a nonsense issue. It is a nonsense issue. It's a culture war bullshit issue using transgender people as a scapegoat to get Republicans power. It's what all the trans bills essentially are. But, while she, you're saying, like, I want to focus on real issues like prices of homes for Delawareans, she also should recognize that there are trans constituents in her constituency who do find this an important issue. This is targeting transgender people. It is an important issue. I understand it's a made-up culture war issue, and frankly, as people who are not U.S. senators, not politicians, it's not something we should be focusing on in terms of like what we can build for trans people. But it is also important to push back against these laws. And she is failing not only the trans constituency in her state, but also trans people generally, that she kind of has been a symbol for in the post-election. I'll talk about that in a second, as well as just her fellow Delaware citizens. Like, generally, if you're allowing scapegoating to happen, that is a detriment to the entirety of your constituency, not just your trans constituency. Because as we have seen, transgender-focused laws often affect cis people as well. Many bathroom bans that ban trans women from entering the bathroom quite often affect cis women as well, who don't fit into gender stereotypical norms. I mean, we saw in the UK very recently, a cis woman was put into a men's prison because she looked male. And this is just going to be something you're going to see more and more and more, like cis women who do not fit into the typical masculine bucket, quite often probably, frankly, women of color, because there's a lot of racism also embedded in transphobia and how we view like what a woman is supposed to be. And you're going to see that more and more and more just get targeted, because that's ultimately the goal of the scapegoating. So she's frankly failing everybody when she's saying that this is an important issue, and she's failing herself. And like, look, I say as an individual person, McBride has every right to make her own choices on how she wants to deal with stuff. Like, I have no right personally to tell on a personal level any trans person how they wish to deal with a law around them. You know, for some trans people, it will be safer for them to abide by the law in order to feel safe and just get about their day. And I there's no shame in that. I am someone who likes to fight back against laws. I feel like I will not ever use a men's bathroom, and I will fight against that in every single state that I end up in or have to deal with that in. However, I understand that that's not everyone's battle, and like, that's fine. You are allowed to make your own choices. So as a person, she is allowed to make this choice.
But as a congresswoman and someone who many trans people have looked up to,
since her election, I think this is a frankly very disappointing response. And even more disappointing response is sort of like, I look forward to working with people across both sides of the aisle. Because that statement also proves to me something that I've been kind of not talking about with her, which is the fact that, you know, I have not wanted to talk much about Senator Sarah McBride. If you looked at my social medias and stuff, you know, where I've seen a bunch of other my fellow trans family and community celebrating her election as a symbol of like, at least we got this, at least we had something good happen during this election. I've been kind of silent on that because on one hand, I don't want to take away that sense of hope, that moment for people. Like, it's been really shitty. It's very scary, and very scary things look to be coming with Trump having been elected. And so I didn't want to take that away, like that, this one piece of hope that some people have. But celebrating Senator McBride's win, this situation just showcased how really hollow that is, because ultimately, at the end of the day, what this showcases to us is that no matter how much trans people succeed by this system's rules, no matter how much we play by its games, no matter how much we try and be the nice ones, the good ones, saying, yeah, we'll say that we're men, yeah, we'll acquiesce to whatever you say about us. The rest of the other trans people who don't follow this, or they're just the freaks and weirdos, they're making it bad for the rest of us. We'll assimilate, we'll be the good ones. And no matter how much you do that, the system's always going to target you. It's always going to hate you. And you'll be thrown on the fire just as much as anyone else is.
And I have heard some criticism that I understand, even if I don't agree, where some people say that McBride is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, where, you know, if she does break the law, then many of her fellow senators and congresspeople will use it as a way to try to oust her or target her further, saying she's not being civil, yada, 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 yada. And so this is the only sort of response that she can do, is I will follow the law, essentially. But that just proves exactly why this sort of direction for trying to seek trans assimilation is ultimately not going to work. We've already seen how McBride's acquiescence to this bathroom law has emboldened these very transphobic congresspeople. Nancy Mace, the congressperson who was attacking McBride in the first place that set off this whole debate, has used this moment to further her own transphobic rhetoric, using McBride as the example by which to say, hey, trans people are really men, and they know it too deep down. By saying in a statement, Sarah McBride's promise to abide by Speaker Johnson's policy is a step toward acknowledging the rights of women everywhere, something we'll continue to demand without compromise. Clearly, this moment is a win for the transphobes. And so either way, by McBride being in this place in either direction will be used against trans people. So again, I understand that she's in a rock and a hard place, and maybe this is the best way forward for her personally as a congressperson, but at the end of the day, she's not going to lead to trans liberation no matter what she does as a senator. And, you know, not even necessarily shade against her for that, but that's just something that I think we as trans people need to acknowledge and understand. As much as the system likes to say that it plays fair, it's not playing fair, and you can't acquiesce to the rules of fascists and expect yourself to find any way to get on top. Unless your only goal is to be better off than other trans people by being one of the good ones, and come to terms with the fact that you'll never be seen as a full person by the people that you are acquiescing to at the expense of your larger community. It's also worth noting that while McBride is allowed to make this decision for herself, not only is it disappointing to her constituency and the trans people that she is a symbol for, but also more materially, it's her refusing to stand up for the transgender civil servants, civilians, and future politicians, as well as anyone who just simply visits the Capitol while being trans as well. It will not just affect her.
And also, and it just showcases how this response of Senator McBride being like, I'll take part in the system, is ultimately like, it's a nice symbol, but ultimately the way things are going in this country, it's just ultimately kind of hollow. And frankly, if I'm being honest, she has also shown statements where she's been supportive of Israel. And in whether or not that is an earnest belief of hers or just something she is doing to play the game in order to get ahead because she believes that, supporting Israel is the way that you get ahead in American politics, which frankly she's probably not wrong about that. Either way, the end result is the same. She's supporting a country that is that our country, America, is enabling in their genocide by giving them continual arms, and just supporting a country who's doing that generally, a government that's doing that generally. It's just basically her win. It was kind of the same thing that I was talking about with Harris and her election, right? I wanted her to win over Trump because I voted for it, and you can criticize me for that all you want, but I do believe that she was slightly better, but she was never going to be good. All basically her win, what it says, like, hey, look, you as a biracial woman, you can get ahead and be a war criminal just like anyone else. You can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And Senator McBride is kind of the same symbol. She's this symbol of like, yeah, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you can get ahead in this country, this sort of pull for assimilation that, the American dream has always tried to sell minority groups. But what we are clearly seeing nowadays is that American dream for minorities being torn apart. The American dream only ever existed for the rich white upper class, the slave owners when it was founded, and the billionaires who exist today. It's just meant to uphold them. Even for the white male, middle and lower class, the American dream isn't for them either, as much as they try to violently push down other minorities in order to try to achieve it based on the stoking of their egos. But ultimately, it's just never going to be something that we're ever going to achieve because the system wasn't built to enable us. So as much as Senator McBride says she's willing to work with people across the aisle, as much as we like to celebrate the symbol of her becoming a senator, and I understand that that is a potent and important symbol to some people to have some level of hope in this moment, trans liberation is never, ever going to come from this system nowadays. It just isn't. And I know there are some people who are grieving the disillusionment of that belief. It was something that I had to go through several years ago when, Donald Trump was elected the first time. And just seeing my disillusionment with the system grow and more over the past 8 years or so. And it's something that many people knew from the day they were born, based on, the fact that they have often been more targeted than the trans community, specifically the white trans community in this country. But it is something that we need to reckon with at this moment. Like, our liberation is never going to come from this system. And this situation with Senator McBride and her acquiescing to it, it just kind of showcases that. And I want to be very clear, what's happening to Senator McBride is gross and nasty and disgusting and terrible, and should be condemned with all possible voices. She does not deserve to be mistreated and humiliated in this way, regardless of my feelings on her personally and her politics on things like Israel. No, she does not deserve to be treated this way. I'm never going to say that. However, I also do think that it's not exactly surprising that this situation is happening. All right. Well, now that I've gotten that off my chest and gotten green on me, I am going to go and film something slightly more hopeful. So again, sorry that this was a serious video with a very not serious face right now, but hopefully it was helpful.